I'm Celso Teixeira. I'm a character sculptor for the animation industry. I'm always trying to explore different ways to output things, so that's what we're going to focus today. So basically, there was a few steps that I gotta take for it to work the way I want. But the main thing that I've been doing now, I always start my files with. I actually have a file for this that I import every time, but I have a little grid for me to see the symmetry line. And all I did here is create like a very, I think that's too thick. Just creating one line on the center. And it's almost like a grid, but not quite, right? Like just a few lines here so I see what I'm doing. So I don't go too far off center, because sometimes I try to mirror things and they look very wonky when I do. So let me create a new layer here. New paint layer, and I'll be trying to... So my painting style here has been very similar to Daniel showed us before. Actually, over a year ago, I think, when Daniel showed the sculpting reel from... what's that TV show? Money Heist? I was going to say La Casa de...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The faces tutorial you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and I really love the way that works. So this is just like a more complicated way of doing the same thing. Okay, so but it's pretty much same steps. I do a little sketch layer first, and then I do like a painting layer. But instead of doing the strokes straight and bending them, I'm trying to do way more strokes and layer them up in a way that they're gonna look like brush strokes on the other side. So
almost like patchwork, right?
Yeah.
Palette knife.
So let me just get a reference here. Image layer. Forgot there was no preview here. I assume it's this one. Okay, this is one of them. So I took this picture. I don't know if you guys know of Banff. It's here in Canada.
Yeah, I actually know Banff. I was there once.
It's like most beautiful place I've ever seen. And
wait, do you live in Canada?
Yeah, I do. I live close to Toronto.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Banff is on Calgary, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took
the name of the city is so funny. Banff.
We got another one. Like, this is a good side view.
Yeah, I had to go to, when I was applying for my green card, I actually had to leave the country once. And I went to Calgary and did some couch surfing there with like some hippies, which was like super fun. And they took me around and we went past Banff.
Oh, I just created...
Is it super cold in Toronto right now?
Oh yeah, and I'm in Barrie. It's like about an hour north of Toronto, and we are where they call the snow belt.
Oh.
So that can be good, right?
Yeah.
The good thing is, like, most of the ski resorts in Ontario are close to me. So
nice.
And yeah, I moved here during the pandemic.
Oh really? From Brazil?
No, from Toronto. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was close to Sheridan. Most people know of Sheridan, right? Like, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I used to live close to Sheridan, and then I work from home now, so no points on living that close to downtown anymore. So for the same amount of money, I got like a better place to live.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so because I'm a 3D character guy, my way of drawing in Quill is more like I do a little bit of each view at a time instead of going full on perspective, right? Like,
Interesting.
So not really like I just like to do at least the first little bit of sketch like that. So I'm gonna do his slope. I'm just gonna do his face. So a slope for the face, a little bit of the mouth shape here, and then I go a little bit perspective from there, like just to the side here. Nice little horn, and I'm gonna try to. It's not gonna look good because I'm gonna try to rush this a little bit so we can jump to Blender. It's just that I think there's some things that it's good to keep in mind for the technique I'm gonna show when sculpting, so that's why I want to start here.
Jama Yoruba was working in a similar way, which I found interesting. Is like he does a side view first, top view, and then he starts extruding the lines out, kind of, right? So
Nice. That guy is.
It's like, he's something else, right? Like he's really good.
Yeah, good inspiration for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. So I do like the center line. I start on the profile most of the times. Do like a little bit of outline, right? Like and then I already go to perspective and maybe get the move brush and push things a little.
Yeah, I mean this is a pretty volumetric sketch already, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like this the first few times I tried. It's the more you do, the more. Okay, so I think this might be good enough as a starting point for me. So I like to mirror things early on because usually I don't like how it looks after a mirror. So let's just do that. And the way I've been doing the mirror, if there is a better way, please let me know. Because if I don't know how to proper reposition this to the center. So what I do usually is just I create a group. I place this inside the group and I duplicate that. And then I flip X and was an X.
Okay, you can just use the index finger and move the pivot to wherever you want. It's not exact, but that's how I would do it, right? Because you can move it after. So without doing an extra group, I would just duplicate the layer, then show the gimbal, move the gimbal with the index finger, and then flip it, right? But your technique works too because then it stays in the center. It's like proper.
That's what
right?
I like about the one is so I forgot to look at
it's exact.
About the gimbal. So I have to use Z here. So okay, that's not quite what I was hoping for, but I'm gonna own it. And then I actually,
it looks more like a water buffalo now.
It does. So
like a badass beast.
Okay, I'm gonna do what you said. Just move after the fact. And actually, I can try to recenter this. Okay, good enough.
Wasn't there a way to reset the pivot point to the origin or something like that?
Yeah, you can in the transforms, but he basically had it because he created a group. It's already in the origin, so he didn't have to change it to the origin, right? And then that was the reason why he built the group. But if you have something floating around, you can reset and reset the origin, and that's what Yari does to get everything in the center, right? But in this case, because he wanted to mirror, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I know there's better ways. It's just like this is the way that it tends to work better for me, especially because I'm going to be mirroring multiple times during my like every time I paint a little bit, I mirror again. So
I see.
yeah, so I with the group thing, at least is mirroring from the same point every time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just wanted to turn the thing off. And yeah, because those little lines I only use on the very, very, very beginning. So
You mean the grid lines?
yeah, and I go overboard when I doing like a more like when I start from my grid file, because I have like it's a tall grid with like transparent thing on the center, so I can kind of like see exactly where it's going. But for the amount of time that I use, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, because I use that for like 10 minutes and then I delete it, so I don't see the points of showing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is good. So
I can tell you're coming from a very nice sculpting mindset with mirroring and like.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I wish that there was like more like a live mirror here, like if you had there. That in instancing, if we had instancing here, like if you could instance an entire layer.
Absolutely.
But again, like I'm in Brazil we say I'm complaining with my belly full, because this is amazing, right? Like it's like
there's always things that could be better.
Yeah. So you like for when I start painting, I can color pick from the picture, but I'm not I don't want to be that attached to the colors there, especially with the time constraints. So
also, it completely depends on the lighting too, right? Local color. So.
True. And for the brush settings, so I'm using the ribbon brush, and I'm gonna turn off my
taper.
My taper, my trigger pressure for that, but I'm gonna turn on the auto for translucency, and I don't really like how it looks in Quill with that, but I'm gonna be using that in Blender, because when I export, I can use the alpha channel as a mask for do some cool little tricks there.
Nice.
Yeah. So I usually start with around the eyes with this. So the other thing to keep in mind for this technique is don't vary your brush size too much within the same layer. So I'm trying to keep the brush size consistent, because we're going to be applying procedural materials on top.
So they look all kind of the same.
Yeah, but
that way, right?
Well, one thing that we can do is, so if you want to have like way bigger brush strokes for here, let me do that. So I create let's name this one small.
Oh, you separate them.
Yeah, just so I separate. Just it becomes more complicated, but in Blender, then I have one material. I can have one material per size, right? Like, and again, like you don't need to be very precise with this.
You just have to keep in mind when you paint on which layer you're painting, right?
Yeah, and like again, you don't need to be precise. Like you can vary a little bit. The main reason I say to keep it consistent is so we don't have like the brush fibers looking. It's going to look the same size for the small stroke and the big stroke. So
right.
So I just reduced the size a little bit there, and it's okay. And so I'm kind of trying to mimic what Daniel does, but like with a lot of strokes instead of a single one, and going like really, and like not bending them, like just letting them look like they look, right? Like with each stroke.
Yeah.
And I already gave.
I love the look that it has already, like a painterly style.
It's not bad, right? Like, and then we compromise a little bit afterwards, and it already like looks more painterly already. And
it's awesome.
And I already gave up on keeping the brush strokes different in different layers. But it's like, if you're gonna do something that's like you don't have a time limit, right? Like then it's something to keep in mind.
I'm surprised. So you're not using the wireframe view to check on where you have brushes and stuff? Would that help?
It does. Usually I just do this one.
The fake wireframe.
Yeah, I think this is good enough, but I just forgot.
Because there's this other guy, I forgot his name, who does like those crazy sculpts in Quill, right? Like he has like he needs the wireframe. Like I think he posted in the Quill forum because he needs to see exactly how the lines work. He does those crazy renders of the hands and stuff, right?
Oh yeah. This helps, but also looks for somebody. For somebody who's not from the 3D workflow, like it's not familiar with that, it looks worse, right? Like so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have this quite a lot when I'm acting like a full wireframe. I just want this trim to look pretty.
Nice, thank you.
So I was avoiding that a little bit. For the horn, I didn't figure this out before. I didn't think how I was going to do the horn. I might do just like 1/2. Let's see if I can just fake the horn. At least for the structure here. Sorry, am I glitching or?
I'm not sure actually. I'm looking at the microphones of others, but nothing's triggering, so I'm not sure who it is. It's not you.
Okay. Because that would be like interesting.
I already muted 2 people because they were getting some background noise.
So at this point, like I'm already going off what my original sketch was, so might as well turn that off too.
So the lines you're not gonna export?
I don't like though. Usually my sketch line, I don't like how it looks.
Okay.
So what I tend to do is and that's when I need the wireframe a little bit more too. So usually what I do is like from this point I go to I paint the lines again afterwards because.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
As accents, basically, with more intention.
Yeah, because.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because then I actually was very economic with the amount of lines there. I'm usually pretty messy, so it doesn't because I try a bunch of different things and I mirror multiple times, so there's a lot of leftovers because I end up combining the mirror and doing it again, and so. But I don't care about that one, so.
Yeah.
And like this is more like an example, right? So I'm not going to be using this for anything, so I'm not too concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna call this good enough and just finish up the.
Maybe a good time to save.
Good reminder. Save. Yeah, I was trying to decide if I was gonna do a human or animal today.
I know, it's cool. You had a human last time, right?
Yeah. And I think I end up choosing animal just because I think it looks like with the brush stroke stuff might look a little bit better.
Mm.
Because those things have like crazy eyes.
It's like that square pupil, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Oh, nice.
And so from this point, I would probably like just colorize things a little bit. Well, let me mirror this first and see how it's actually looking. Turn off this because it's ugly. I'm gonna combine those two because I didn't keep jumping back and forward anyways. So yeah, group, put that in the group, flip Z. I usually try to stay on the X axis. I didn't pay attention when I started, so that's what I get. What I get. And
Nice.
I'm actually pretty happy with it.
Yeah, looking really good.
So, and I don't really like having too much symmetry on the center line. So I'm okay with this gap here because I'm gonna paint over there anyways. And there is a chance the Blender side might not look that good either, because it's a very experimental workflow that I'm doing.
It's all good. Is this black line, is this an extra layer or is it on the same?
Right now I'm doing on the same, but because I want to colorize this one on top, and then I do another one that's actually the line. Like this is just going to be a darker accent for some parts.
I see.
Yeah, I shouldn't have gone like full black, but I'm going to be colorizing anyways. So
yeah.
And how are we for time?
We are at 25 minutes in so far.
Okay, so I'm gonna paint for another 5 minutes so we can have a good half an hour of Blender.
Nice.
And okay, so colorizing this, let me just check. Okay, merged it down. Yeah, the other thing that I used to do a lot was having like all those menus spread across my workspace, so I don't have to be changing menus here. But that got old really fast. Just having to deal with setting that up every single time, right? Because it doesn't stay with the font.
That's another thing, right? Another wish on the list.
Yes,
it would be nice to have to say.
Because like it's not always that you're using the same exact setup, right? So I understand. That's
true.
I understand. So like for the colorize, I'm gonna fake it a little bit with the multiply layer and just gonna darken things like with very low strength there. Darken the bottom a little bit and gonna jump to dodge, pick another color there and do the same on the top here. So just giving some fake lighting here a little bit. And then I go back to normal and I color pick from those to blends because I don't really like to use those things too much.
Yeah, very wise.
I don't know. I like as a starting point, and then I can color pick that and keep going, because sometimes it's hard to find the proper color. And the thing that I do like about it is it influences like different colors in different ways, right? So that's a cool thing, a cool aspect of it. But, okay, so I think let me just colorize a little bit more around darker.
I like the idea that it's all made of these sort of straight strokes, but you don't really see it in Quill that much. But probably in render, in Blender, it would catch a light in such a way that it would be defined.
Yeah,
Lines, right?
It gets really harsh in Blender. So there, I'm yet to try to mix those two things. Like did you watch my other one before?
He's muted.
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you watched his previous tutorial, previous class.
Oh yeah, I started today, but I haven't finished yet.
Okay, yeah. So that one is more like about blending the strokes in a way, right? Like I export, like I remesh it and project the normal so they look less like individual strokes and more like a single mesh. So that's why it's fun to do this other method, because it's like the complete opposite, is actually trying to really get the strokes to be used as a texture pretty much. Okay, I'm gonna just need another layer for my black strokes, and then we're good.
2 more minutes until 30.
Right, that's good. I'm on schedule. And one thing that I kind of want to do is for this, I wanted the pen pressure back for
The taper.
Yeah, not pen pressure, trigger pressure, because I like the tapering on lines, right?
Yeah.
And I usually don't do too much of those on outlines, like I'm doing right now, but I do more like where, because like if I do, let's say, if I go on the side view and I do one here, when I rotate, it looks wrong already, right? So it can't be very married to a single view. So I try to keep those within a single farm. Sorry, not a single farm, within the farm. So around the eyes, it's fine because those like look fine when you rotate.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can get away with if they're placed correctly, right? Like how, toon shaders generate outlines dependent on angles, but that's why they always look there's a toon shader look to it, right? But if you place the lines in Quill in a smart way, it doesn't create that toon shader look. It actually looks solid and it looks really good, right?
Yes. And then you can combine those two things, right? And let the shader do the outline for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I'm yet to get a successful outline from the shader with the Quill strokes, because I end up getting little, like for every single stroke.
I see. Yeah.
But there's a way. I'm sure we're gonna find it.
There's always a way.
Okay.
Yeah, I was fascinated by Daniel Page's Conan, where it literally looks like a comic book frame, right, with like solid outlines, and
it's
really
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
You guys, the other good one was like your Dragon Ball Z comic page.
Oh, Dragon Ball, yeah, that one was classic.
And it shows that it's possible, right? Because I think the weird thing is, like, first time you pick this up, it's very the constraints are scary, right? Like the limitations, but I think it can be just like more ammunition for your creativity if you.
Totally, like I feel like the constraints make you be more creative, and you soon realize, right, that the constraints are actually not real constraints. It's more freedom. This looks really good, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Awesome.
Okay, that's good enough. So I'm gonna cue my references here.
Save.
Yeah, why not? And I don't need those references to go through. Actually, I'm just gonna turn off. No reason. Okay, and export. So we went through this before. So on the export settings, I know it's not a RAM, it's a bighorn ship, but RAM is easier to type. So I like to go Alembic, and for Blender, linear doesn't work as very well, so I just changed that to Gamma. Export UVs, and I didn't animate. That works with animation. I'm just gonna flag anyways. I don't know what this does, but I always turn it on. And that's pretty much it. So export, and let's jump to Blender. Let me see. Document exported. All right. Give me 1 second to replace headsets here.
Yep.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because Discord sometimes switches audio when I take the headsets off.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And we see Blender. Perfect.
yeah, empty Blender file, right? Like when you first open Blender, you have this like camera, cube, and lights. I'm just gonna cue everything.
First thing you do is to delete the cube, right?
Yeah, it's funny enough, and it's funny at some tutorials they delete the cube, and the first thing they do again is create a new cube. I'm like, that became a joke already. So import ABC. Where are you? Quill RAM. Good. So we got this. Looks already pretty interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And one thing, like if you want to see the exact copy of what you had in Quill, what I usually do is come here and change from studio. So on the top corner here, from studio to flat, and from material to vertex. So,
oh wow.
So this is already like pretty much what you see in Quill. And
easy.
And but we are not going to be looking through this view that much. We're going to be using Eevee for rendering. So on the top menu here, just going to click on the third one. It's the rendered viewport. And by default, it has Eevee there. And it looks like nothing now because I have no lights. So I'm going to create a light here. And I like using the area lights.
Yeah, those are pretty. It looks like the alpha is already working, right?
I don't think so. It's just a glitch. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the viewport glitching.
Okay. And that looks already super cool.
Thanks. So, okay. So a little bit of a light there. Just going to go a little stronger with it. Too strong. 50. And because scale is usually an issue for both Blender and Quill, they're both not known to to have like consistent sizing with other 3D applications. So in the lights here, it's size dependent. So I usually just go by trial and error. I don't have like preset values for anything. And for us to start, so hooking up the colors first. If I drag, oh god, what have I done? Yeah, if I drag from the corner here to the right, I'm gonna get a second viewport. And with that second viewport active, I'll just click on here and change from 3D viewports to shader editor. And that's where we're gonna do most of the work. And on the right side here, go to material and create a new material there. And I don't know if they included that since the last time or if it was always there and they didn't know. But if you do Shift A and click on search, you can get the vertex color here. Before I would get attribute thing, but then you have to type the name of the color. And sometimes like between FBX and...
you don't even have to point it at RGBA?
Yeah, now it's straight, yeah. It goes and it separates the alpha already for you there.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm gonna apply the same material here on the line work for now, but I will be changing that later on. So if I select first the line, then the face, and copy material to selected, now they both share the same material. And okay, so first things first, let's get the alpha hooked up. The way that Blender works, there is not really the way that Blender works, there is not really a place to plug within the shader. So what I do is I create I don't know, maybe there is, and I don't know, but I create a mixed shader, and I create a transparent one as well, so transparent shader. So I plug the transparency to one shader, my actual shader to the other one, and I'm gonna use the alpha as the factor. So it's gonna separate those two. And by doing that now, if I Control Shift and click on this one, something weird happens, and that's because I have this, it's going the other way around, so much better now. And a way to control those brush strokes here is, the opacity, is if I create a color ramp and place it in between my my alpha from the vertex color and the factor here. Now, and there is like, if you have there is a add-on called Node Wrangler. It comes with Blender. If you have that on and you Control Shift and click on anything, it's gonna preview that, right? So this is how my alpha looks like, and I can treat this like a curve and adjust.
Nice.
And this is a good preview. And then if I go back to previewing my mix shader, you see the final result a little bit better. But you see that I'm not really getting opacity. I'm getting black. I gotta turn on, I gotta come here to the material properties, and blend mode here is set to opaque and shadow mode set to opaque. So I need to change the first one to alpha hashed. Now I got the opacity working.
Yes.
And I don't know when that happened, but before Blender wasn't able to read the UVs on Alembic files, you had to use FBX for that. At least not from Quill. Now it's working. So I'm gonna be using a lot of UV based procedural stuff here. And the first one, I wanna create a wave texture here. And like I did before, Control Shift click there to preview. So right now it's projecting on 3D space. If I do Control T, it creates a mapping node for me. And right now you see here it's on generated. So I'm gonna change that to UV. And now it's using the UVs that came with that to apply this.
And you used there's a second UV set too, but you used the main one, right?
I don't see. Yeah, for Blender is only seeing one UV set. I was looking for the second one before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You should be able to somehow extract the second, because especially the second UV set that Quill provides, it becomes especially important when you have grab tool animation in it. Because you might have noticed that if you have grab tool animation and you use the first UV set, the UV slide over the geometry. And if you use the second UV set, it stays static. But yeah, that could be another class.
Yeah, let me see here, because I only see one.
There's only one?
Yeah.
Huh. Strange.
But it's a Blender thing. It's not. But because before I would get none. So it's already better. I can't complain.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got my waves going through the model the way I want. Let's play with these settings a little bit, right? Like I'm just changing the scale there, distortion. I'm happy with this, but I want to clip those things a little bit more. So I will be adding another, I can just duplicate this one, another color ramp, and plug in here in between. And you see the values already crushed a little bit, right? So you can like really adjust, because I want to have like more contrast on that. And I think I will be increasing the scale because I want to see more lines. And okay, that's already pretty interesting. So one thing I can do with this is go back to my mix shader view and hook this use this as a bump map. So I don't know where anything is in Blender. I always search for it. Sorry, strength. Maybe not strength. Height, sorry. Has been some time. I always use normal map for stuff. So okay, it's pretty strong. Let's do 0.2. And now I see that my scale is a little bit off too, right? So you can always go back here and adjust the scale. Let's try 80. Yeah, that's more like it. And I think I still find it too strong, but my roughness and specular here, I can always play with those two, and that's gonna change a little bit. I'm probably gonna be adjusting this afterwards, so I don't want to use much of the time just for this little thing. This is where things are gonna start getting interesting now. If we get this, sorry, let me just double check. I don't need this menu here, it's just taking screen space. Okay, I'm gonna get this entire thing and duplicate. And
that is that line texture, or?
Yeah, the line texture, and then I will also duplicate my vertex color there, just so it's easier to access over here. I don't have to be running lines all the way from the top. And I will be using this to drive my my opacity with the lines in mind. So yeah, right now I'm just going to Control Shift and click on this one so I can preview those lines again. And I will create a mix RGB and duplicate this color ramp again and hook up the alpha to the factor and the color to one of the colors here, and same thing with the other one is going here. And now this is the one I want to preview. So it's kind of blending my line texture with my opacity. But right now it's just doing 50-50, right? I'm changing to 100 there, and let's try screen. So right now, like, it's only because screen is similar to Photoshop, where I'm getting only white. It's showing from one to the next, right? Like it's projecting. It's the opposite of multiply. Okay, I really like that. And we can always like just preview the whole thing again if I hook this up to my main mix shader there. So it's getting a little bit of that, but it's not enough. So let me play with so the other thing I can do is get this scale here. So let me duplicate this color ramp yet again. Oops, that didn't work. I need more space there. Get the alpha hook, same thing. I'm gonna just go back to the basic here and use this to drive the distortion of my line work. And right now I'm not getting much, so it's pretty much zero distortion because I'm only getting a value from 0 to 1, and over here, if you look what I had before, it was already 6. So if I create a math node and place in between and set to multiply, now I can have like more intense.
I see.
Yeah, more intense results, and I can even flip black and white, so I get more distortion close to the edges. And let me see what happens if I flip. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I could spend a lifetime playing with that kind of stuff, like just different options. What does this do? You know, like there's so much stuff that you're opening up here. Much things to play with. Yeah,
it's so much fun. And yesterday I was like, I told my wife like, I'm gonna go like just 40 minutes just to set up a shader the way I want to do for the class tomorrow. It was like 2 hours went by, I didn't even notice.
Oh yeah, shading always eats time, right?
Yeah. And
lighting as well.
Yeah, and the other thing here, if I clamp, let me see what happens. Yeah, it doesn't change much there. Maybe if I go to soft light and clamp. No. I'm gonna keep this one on screen, and I will do another mix color here. Mix RGB with multiply, and I'm just gonna double down with the alpha because I'm getting too much white close to the close to the end of the strokes, and I wanted that to be more on the black side. So now I got a lot of black there again, and
that was the wrong.
Oh yeah.
Gradient, right?
Yeah, it gets too complicated too fast too, right? Like if you don't keep good track of stuff. Yeah, multiply. And I want to clamp those together a little bit so I don't have a lot of gray. So it's more like from black to white. I want to, I have another file that I was playing with that I was able to get like a good transition here, but it takes a lot of tweaking. But this is like the general workflow for that. And let's just see here how it's.
You have 50 minutes in, just time check.
Yeah.
Is there a way in Blender to add the labels to those nodes so you remember like what it was supposed to do?
There is. I think, let me see. I don't remember the name of that, but you can create a little box here with a name and a color and have like things affecting different portions.
But you can also rename the shaders, right? Of course.
Yeah. And the good thing is like this works in conjunction with everything else, right? So one thing that I really like to do is let me just see how this is looking here. Okay, I'm just going to improve my lighting a little bit so so I can see better what's happening there. And just turning on ambient occlusion and bloom already makes it didn't change that much, but okay. So I'm just turning on the regular stuff that I always do. And where's my shadow options? High bit rate. And I don't know if my light has proper contact shadows as well. So just turning on a bunch of stuff already makes it pop, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, I would have the eyes as a different material as well, so I can make them more shiny.
Incandescent.
Yeah.
Glowing.
And so I don't have a camera right now, so let me create a camera. If you're not a Blender user, Shift A creates the stuff. So if you do Shift A, it's the add menu. And if you press 0 on the number keyboard, you go into camera view. And I can just go to view and lock camera to view. That way I can actually frame it by just positioning instead of having to use like the move tool. And the only reason why I wanted the camera here is so I can have a good depth of field, a little bit of blur on the background. So I don't know why I removed that. Okay. And usually I want the eye to be in focus, right? Like that's the way I go about it. So if I shift right click on the eye, I position this temporary cursor there. So anything it creates now, it's going to be created there. Shift A again for adding a new object, and there is a category of objects called empty, and they're just like a placeholder for something, right? Like, so I created this
like a null object, or?
Yes, yeah, exactly, or a locator, or yeah. So if I go here to my camera options and I turn on depth of field, and on the focus object I pick my my empty. Now the eye is in focus. And
it's much simpler than in Maya.
And I could just click on the object itself, but then it's considering the bounding box of the object, not the specific point. Yeah. That's why I do the empty locator first.
Yeah, I do the same by creating two locators, measure the distance, parent one to the camera, and connect the focus distance to the distance node.
Yeah, that's... and I don't know why I really like backlighting things. So I'm going to duplicate this light, and then I do something similar to what you described. I just constrain this light. Sometimes I have a different locator for that. Right now I'm just going to... Yeah, so I can move the light anywhere, so it's going to be pointing there, right? So it's much easier for you to light things that way. And back to my camera view.
Make it a bit blue.
Let's do it.
That's a really good tip with the light. I never thought to do it that way.
And yeah, and it saves a lot of time, and especially if you have a sunlight, because the sunlight only you can only move by rotating, right? And it's much easier for you to just like, I wanted the sun over here, and you put it there. So this, yeah, too much.
Oh, look at the bloom.
Yeah, the bloom helps.
You know what? Actually, if that light is yellow and then the fill light is blue, I think that might look better. Actually, if the string backlight is the sunlight, it's and then the other light is the blue one.
How yellow they go?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And where's my other light here? Yeah, this one has to be subtle. I might, yeah. Ideally, I would have another one, right? Like, there another light, but I'm already getting carried away. and this like adds a lot of a lot of other stuff on your view part. And if you really want to see what you're doing, you probably don't want that, right? So there is this little button here that if you click, it hides everything that's not renderable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you can have a better notion of what you have on your screen. And one thing that I want to do here on top is having my first, like the thing that's driving the bump. I want that to, I don't know, let's just trying to improve the look a little bit here. So I just duplicate the whole thing. Ideally, I would just connect that here so I can have always the same settings between the two. But this is a little bit easier for me to...
Quick and dirty way.
And I'm doing the exact same thing as the previous nodes. But now I have black coming from my lines as well from on top of everything there. So
I love that switch. At least I don't know how to do that switch in Maya. I always have to replug the textures just to check what it looks like.
Ooh,
that's crazy.
Oh, and then now I'm seeing through a little bit, right? So it gets some artifacts there.
That looks crazy.
Yeah, so this it has a lot of room for improvement, and I'll probably keep working on this and post on the group.
Can you do me a favor? Can you do one more light as a bounce light on the bottom?
Yeah, let's do it.
That's the lighter in me. Can't stand the dark shadow at the bottom.
Yeah, I just need to turn on my...
You can constrain it. Let's make that a little bit greenish yellow. Much weaker, of course, but... Yeah. Nice.
And then for my main for my lines here, another thing I can do is so now that it has all those stuff that we did, it's on both materials, right? It's a single material. If I go to my material editor and there's this number here, so there's two objects using. If I click on the number, it cancels one of them. So, it's no longer instanced. Now it's two materials instead of one.
Oh.
So
it's separated into two materials now? Or?
Yeah. So I can now, if I keep changing this material for the lines only, I'm not affecting the other one. So I can break this apart because I don't want all the... Let's see here. So for color here, right now I have this plugged in, so I removed that. And I'm going to do an emission shader with just black on it.
And it's kind of like a constant shader, right?
Yeah. Just so now those lines are not picking up light. Yeah. Right? It's just... Nice. And let's say if I don't want to the little brush strokes. Actually, I'm gonna add a plane on the back because it's getting a little hard to see there. My scene is very dark. Sorry, mesh, plane. Woo!
It looks really cool.
Yeah, I think my last little trick, I don't like how it looks.
Too transparent, right?
Yeah. So on my test looked better, but I also did more to it. And you can have the same thing driving the roughness as well, right? So
yeah.
And so instead of doing one last thing. So instead of doing the way I was doing there to drive the opacity, maybe I should add this as part of the color. So if I create a mix RGB here and place it between those two, and I put this on the bottom one. I never know because Blender is a little upside down on some things with the layer stacking. So I never know if it goes up or down. It's always the opposite of what I think.
It's like USB sticks.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do multiply here. Yeah. So now that's picking up both the black lines that I was creating and it's painting on top of my vertex color. So I'm mixing a proper texture with a procedural line work that I was creating. And I think those lines were too small, so let's maybe too big now. But right? Like you got to keep experimenting with it.
Yeah, if you make it now, lower the opacity of the black lines, right? The mix node, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
yeah, you can.
Right now, the black is a little bit aggressive, right?
Yeah, it's very so.
There we go. Almost looks like wood. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's now what I was going for at first, but this looked way better in my mind before we started. But again, like within 1 hour, we can only get so far.
Can you actually overlay this instead of multiply?
Yeah.
So overlay, right? Saturate things.
There we go. A lot better.
Nice.
And like the main takeaway, I think, is by painting with the opacity as well, you can have something that you can apply procedurally to the beginning and the end of every single stroke.
So you can blend things in a nice way, right?
Yeah. And with those curves, let me just see which one is here. Like you can control how far that opacity is going. I should have exported a few flat strokes on the back here, so you can see the result a little bit better, like on a flat surface. But
looking good though. So I could imagine like if you would have exported horns with on a separate layer, right? Then you could add a little of like visual interest by simplifying the horns, right? Because right now it looks like it has the same material, but if the horns were more plain.
Definitely, yeah.
Right, and they will look amazing.
Yeah, ideally you separate like, let's say anything that if you would make in real life, you would use a different. Either a different object, a different material, or even if you're painting and you think like, like I would be painting this little bit with like a fine brush, and this little bit I would just go all over with a big like painting brush, like from house painting. Like if you think that way, you can separate things a little bit better. It's just hard not to paint on the wrong layer.
Yeah, that's true. Can you hide the UI? Yeah, perfect.
Looks really cool, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you created something else in Quill now, export it again, you could use the same material. Basically, you just connect it, and it has the same effect exactly.
Yes.
So you can have a library of those effects that you can kind of use, and you'll know in advance what they're doing, right?
Yeah, and because the UVs are auto-generated and always named the same, and because the everything else is using vertex color and you're painting that anyways, it's plug and play. You just hook up the thing and it's working.
That's cool. Can you rotate it a little bit?
Yeah.
The head?
Oops.
It's nice.
Well, let's rotate the actual thing here. Nope.
It's cool because it can create, like, if you find the kind of like a thing that you really like a set of materials that you really like, and then you can just sort of create in that style, and you can have a whole kind of world in that same style with, you only have to do the work once.
Yeah, and there is well, we're already over an hour. Do you mind going another 10 minutes, Goro?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's up to you.
Yeah, because I have we can build on top of this with the let's just get another principled shader here. And this is part of what I showed on the other class. So you can keep like combining those things, right? So if I get this one, let's hook this to the thing there. There is a thing in Blender called shader to RGB. So if I hook this up, it's getting all the lighting information that this material creates and baking into just RGB information instead of being an actual shader. So because of that, I can do another color ramp. I like color ramps a lot. And
it's like baked lighting?
Yeah. So now it's
bake material, basically.
Yeah, you're baking the material and the lighting, right? Like not really baking, but you're isolating things. So
yeah, so it still reacts to correctly when you rotate the camera.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for, I'm trying to separate those values. So I want like pure black and pure white. A little bit of gradient is not a problem. But now like I have my shadows on pure black, right? So I can either just do a multiply on top of my color there and use that way, or I can take that to the next, like overcomplicate things a little bit more, like I like to do, and let's say duplicates this whole thing. Oh God. Okay, so duplicate this whole thing. And this one, let me get just the color from this. Let's say I wanna like, actually this is my main one, right? So I'm just gonna increase the subsurface on this one a little bit just to see how it looks. I don't like it, but adds a little bit of red. I don't know. It's more waxy.
A little bit is nice. Yeah.
So for my duplicate here, I can add Rgb Curve, and that's pretty much like the Photoshop curve. And I will darken it. Forgot to preview that one. So I will darken more. Actually, I'm gonna go the other way around. I'm gonna lighten this one up. Or darken. I like it darken better. You can tell I prepared. Okay, so now I have a darker value and a lighter value for the same material pretty much. The reason why I like to duplicate the whole material structure is because then I can, you could have like a more cross-hatch feeling to the shadows and more painterly to the highlights. And by using this, you separate them with another mix shader. So instead of having my color going there, it's going to this mix shader, and this mix shader goes to the color. And then this new color ramp here, it's gonna drive the difference, and my new material here goes on the other one. And now we previewed that. Oops, we previewed the next one because this one is skipping the. Oh, don't crash. Okay, good. Because I haven't saved a single time.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I think Yeah, I just hooked to the wrong place there. It's fine. It's gonna work. I hope. There we go. So now with this, like my shadows got much darker there, and I can even control that over here, like how that's affecting, like as a gradient. Or I can come to this and say like, oh, my shadows are too dark, and I can light them up, or maybe even have them like. So you can really push like if you're doing more comic book style and you want to like very dark blacks.
And city.
Yeah, right. Like it gives you freedom to, and you can ever even tint the shadows that way. Like you have more control over that on the lights, of course, but or post production. But sometimes you just want to like, let's say, more red on the shadows. So if you lift that, it's taking a little bit to calculate because. Like the first time you do a change, and now it takes some time. But then,
nice.
Or green, right? Like if you want more green on the shadows and blue, you just push the reds down. And
you have this sort of grainy opacity on the edge of on the tip of the horn and other places. Is that from the Quill? Like because of the opacity you have there? Or is it from Blender?
It's I think it's from Blender. It's a little bit of is like just display resolution, especially mixed with my depth of field. So let me get off my camera here. I think it's just like the resolution, and I added that distortion to the ends.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I put a nodes that was distorting the lines as it got close to the end of the stroke. And it's this one that's being driven. The intensity is driven by the alpha as well. So whatever is black on the alpha, it goes here, and that's driving the combination there. And it also goes here on the distortion. Like, so if I take this off, anytime you unhook or hook something, it takes longer, but if you're just changing values, it should be fast. Yeah, so now it's a little bit less of that, right? Like it's just the strokes fading away.
It's really cool. I love the effect.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I apologize that it doesn't look a little bit better. I was hoping I would get this.
It looks awesome.
Well, I think the main goal for me was to have give people ideas, like because it doesn't matter if this looks good or bad the way I apply it, but if you are a Blender user, this might spark like, oh, I can actually like combine this with the other thing that I was trying, and have a result that has nothing to do with this. You're just using a little bit of the nodes that I showed. Yeah, and also this, if you combine this with the my previous stream, it looks a little crazy because if you do the normal projection that I showed, then you get the line is going on the proper direction, but it looks painted on a sculpted form instead of being individual strokes.
Yeah,
I did a test with that for with clay materials, with clay textures, and it looks pretty nice. But we only have some time, right? Like we're already over.
It could be another class.
Yeah.
Oh. Man, that's what's awesome. It's looking good, Celso. Like, it's really like selling the concept of how you work, and like, again, this makes me want to try Blender again because like the way I work in Maya, a lot of things are definitely a little bit slower. Like I can do the same things, but you click this, click that, and I'm like, well, that would be like 5 clicks. Or maybe it's just me not knowing Maya enough, but I've been using it for years. So I think I know it fairly well. But a lot of things I'm like, oh my God, that would take like extra clicks.
Believe me, because I use Maya for my day job, right? So I suffer on both, because when I'm in Maya, I'm suffering missing the Blender features, and when I'm in Blender, it's like, oh, this is so much easier in Maya. It's different things, but I think
it's definitely Blender seems to be much snappier and faster, though. Right?
Yeah, but it's much better for a single user, but it's not that great for an entire studio to use, because like it needs less pipeline tools but also it doesn't have the pipeline test. So yeah. And also like Maya has been the standard for so long that like making hair in Blender is very fun, but not very usable, because it's not very rigging that hair is a nightmare. As in Maya, there's so many third-party plugins that you can have like really good hair, really well rigged, and with simulation on top, right?
So if you're familiar with my question for you, like, because I don't know that function, but is there a switch where you can switch to the current shader, or do you have to unplug and replug into the shader you're using? Like, for example, if you want to see like a quick checkerboard or something, like I would have to like plug a checkerboard texture into the actual shader, whereas here you just I don't know what the combination was. You do shift click or something like that, right?
Yeah, here is Control Shift, right? Like on anything, if you Control Shift, it creates a little node called Viewer here.
That's so good. Yeah. So Maya doesn't have that, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I wish it did.
Yeah, it's super useful. Like a lot of times I have to like create those procedural shaders, and then I end up plugging it into the main shader temporarily, right, to see the fractals or whatever. And then you plug it back into the mixed shader textures and stuff.
But then you also have to find where it goes, right?
Oh, man, the struggle is real.
There was... What was the other thing that I was going to do here? I don't know.
It's good. I think it was another fantastic stream. It's really, really educational. I like it a lot.
Oh,
so thank you so much, Celso, for today's class.
No
this
problem.
Was super exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes from it, because the last time a lot of people picked it up, and like Johnny Belmont did like some use of what I showed, and there was other people too, and they always tag me when they post stuff, so I'm like super excited to see that they took what I showed to the next level and made it actually look good. Or not just look good, but finished something, right? Because I'm terrible for that. I don't finish anything.
You should do the Santa's Delivery Squad challenge if you have time.
No,
the current community challenge. Just do a race. You already have a reindeer head here. It's not a reindeer, but
close enough.
You can use it as your racer.
I haven't been checking that on the past few weeks. I'm gonna see if it's a good practice, right?
Yeah, there's a challenge here. It's called under community events. You see the Santa's Delivery Squad, where Roxandra created like a racetrack, and then you just add your racer to it, and then we will combine them all by December 20th is the deadline, I believe, and we will also have a stream about it as well. So
okay, I'm gonna do it.
Check it out. Yeah, awesome.
If you don't see anything, you can ask me.
I'm gonna poke you. Yeah,
poke you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Celso, for this time stream. We have Stefano Bagnoli coming in next week. He's gonna, I think, do some freestyling as well. So be excited for that. Nice. And I'll see you guys next time.
See you all.